The book of Baruch, chapter 3, verse 8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us, for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject, meaning under the rule, to payments, according to all the iniquities of our fathers which departed from the Lord our power. All praise, honor, and glory, all praises, all honor, and all glory goes to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, for allowing me to do another lesson. I pray this lesson be edifying. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone, and salutations to the elect whom the Lord have given ears to hear. And for those of you newcomers, Yahweh is the paleo name, the true name of who the world calls God. In the scriptures, you will find Lord in all caps. That goes back to Yahweh, not Jehovah, but Yahweh. His son's name is Yahawashi, who the world normally calls Jesus Christ. All right. Jesus translates to Joshua, which in a pure tongue, the Paleo Hebrew, the Lashawan Quadash, goes into Yahawashi. So I was looking up this quote. We should all know it. All right, it's by Benjamin Franklin. Right, it says, "The saying in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes, was famously written by Benjamin Franklin in a letter to a friend on November 13th, 1789. The quote highlights two universal and inevitable aspects of life, right? Which is of this life. The certainty of mortality and the certainty of taxation. So it says attribution. Okay. And we don't gotta go into all that. Right? But in this life, why? Because we are slaves. We are in captivity because of our iniquities. And prove that we are subject to payments. We are subject to slavery. We are subject to death. Or the reason why, rather, is because of our iniquities. Remember, it's written of in Romans 6 and 23 that the wages of sin is death. So the Lord got us in these chains of darkness under the man of sin. All right, because of our wickedness. That's why we need out. We need help. We need Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And you know, one thing about death is that it proves without a shadow of a doubt that there is a Heavenly Father. Right? That's the great equalizer. And you could be a man that's, you know, in shape, eats healthy, but the Lord, you know, pull your card, then you out of there. Right? This is Deuteronomy 28 and 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. And Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. The word Egypt, meaning Matasarium or double streets, meaning great bondage, again. All right. This second Egypt is known as America, spiritual Sodom, spiritual Gomorrah, spiritual Egypt. We came here on cargo slave ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, for slaves. And no man shall buy you, no man shall redeem us. Right? We were never redeemed. If anything, we were lied to. All right, sold over and over again. All right, we waiting for Yahweh Shai to redeem us. And he's not coming as a man. Right? So this is a painful life we live, and we need Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. We desperately need Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. Now, so I did a little research on the chat. I put in taxes, tributaries, taxes, tributes, and slavery. Did they always correlate? All right. And it says, not always, but they often overlap. So taxes, regular payments, usually in money or kind, demanded by a state from its citizens or subjects, used to fund public functions, defense, infrastructure, administration. Tributes, payments made by a weaker group or polity to a stronger one, often as a sign of submission or in exchange for protection. So what's that protection in the form of taxes is defense, right? You paying, so they say, for you paying, your taxes goes towards safer a neighborhood, your taxes go towards a police department and so on and so forth. Not more than a tribute. Slavery is a system in which people are treated as property, compelled to labor without pay and without freedom. It says when they correlated throughout history, these systems sometimes reinforced each other. It says conquered people paid tribute and also provided forced labor. Right? And this is for example, in Neo-Assyrian Empire, tribute included gold, livestock, and slaves. In Rome, slaves were both war captives and a base of economic production that made tax collection easier. Under feudalism, peasants were not technically slaves, but owed labor dues and taxes to their lords. Both systems derived from earlier tribute structures. It says empires like Aztecs or Mongols demanded tribute in goods and sometimes in human captives. Many colonial powers imposed taxes that forced indigenous populations into labor systems to earn money to pay those taxes. Right? And now we are such in an effed up state that to not have a job is bad news. To get laid off, to get fired is bad news. These scriptures, as it is written, they shall pursue you and overtake you. Right? And we're being drowned in these curses. And the prophets are giving you the reason why, but these people, they continue on in their wickedness. Right? But we of the hopeful elect, we went out. We need this place to fall. As scary as it's going to be, we need this place to fall. Because it's scary to stay. This devil's talking about you will own nothing and be happy. This devil wants you to pay for opening the refrigerator or buying one too many steaks for the month. So it says a general pattern. I'm gonna skip down here. It says historically the stronger the central authority, the more likely these three systems were integrated. Tribute evolved into taxation as empires institutionalized their control. And that's something, because it says historically the stronger the central authority, the more likely these three systems were integrated. And as we get closer into this mark of the beast and this devil, forcing this image down the people's throat, then we're going to see stronger, a stronger forceful taxation on the people. Tribute evolved into taxation as empires institutionalized their control. So it says forced labor often substituted for or complemented tax revenue when monetary systems were underdeveloped. And as this place is falling, that's something. I'm gonna have to look into that, because that's something. Again, it makes me think of, like, as this place falls, how much more tougher it's going to be for the average everyday citizen. As we just read, often substituted for or complemented tax revenue. Because the people, as they're losing their jobs, the states and so on and so forth are losing tax revenue. So that's something. It says, if you'd like, okay, that was that. So then I typed in, is it mandatory to pay tribute or tax? It says, so they're both mandatory, but it says in different ways. Tribute is imposed by dominant power, empire, conqueror, overlord, whereas a tax is imposed by a recognized state or government, also a dominant power. Obligation, mandatory for subjects, refusal equals punishment or invasion. And for taxes, same thing. It's refusal equals legal penalties, fines, and imprisonment. It says military or political coercion for tributes, whereas a tax is legal and institutional coercion. Pay or you're breaking the law. Pay or will attack. Right. So I mean, they pretty much saying the same thing twice. Slavery, tribute, and taxes go hand in hand. And we are yet this day in our captivity. And we need Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai to turn this bitch upside down. And he will. When the Lord comes back, we gonna be good, man. When you read about Lazarus the beggar, right? Because we're in a situation where our water is being sold to us. Water is being sold to you. A land plenteous in water is being sold to you. Right? Natural gas is being sold to you. This man is the devil. Right? These are things that's, well, it says natural gas, but, well, today we use natural gas to heat our homes. But naturally we will use fire to keep warm and to, create our meals and so on and so forth. That's a natural thing given by Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. But as slaves, that's something that's allowed. That's something that we're allowed to have under this devil. Let you not pay that gas bill. It's over with. You know? So again, you need to eat, right? You need to, have shelter. So guess what? You gotta work. But and this is for us lower class. These elites ain't lifting a finger. You know? But it reminds me real quick, kind of like diverting, but it reminds me of this precept, Luke 16. And 25. '24, right? Because the Lord is going to switch it up for us, man. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, again, Lazarus being a beggar, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. You know? And for us lower class, especially us Israelites, always being racially profiled, stressing the fuck out about this bill and that bill, child support. They say even in the corporate world, there's a mass influx of racism going on. All right, but hey, and when it's our time to shine, we're gonna return the favor. Right? That's what we're pretty much reading here, to where the beggar. Let's read up, because this is pretty much talking about the rich man and the beggar. Right now, Esau's the rich man, and Israel's the beggar. That's why they're crying for SNAP benefits. Right? They're crying for nutrition. It says, let's start at 19. There was a certain rich man, which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. That word sumptuously meaning splendidly, magnificently. Right? They got manners. They have estates. We got apartments. Motherfucker got acres of land. We living in a fucking 600 square foot apartment, struggling to pay that. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Right? They watch that movie Goodbye Uncle Tom. In slavery, it was almost like we were being fed the crumbs when this devil gave us his slop. That's where you got the chitlins and the bullshit ass meals that we count as delicacies today. Pig feet, hog maw, sauce meat, all that bull crap. So it says, and there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores, desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. The other nations, they got fat off of our sicknesses as well. Opening up, Chinese food stores, liquor stores, and so on and so forth in our neighborhoods. It came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. All right. The rich man also died and was buried. And in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. Right? So, soon to come, there's going to be a role reversal. And mind you, Abraham and his seed, his lineage, received the promise of immortality, the promise of everlasting life and peace. Right? So again, it's going to show you that the Lord is going to hook us up. And in hell he lifted up his eyes, the rich man being in torments, and see if Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. Right? So soon enough, we're going to come into our glory. We're going to come into what was promised to our forefathers. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. Right? Remember, Yahweh Shah said the nation's going to be ruled with a rod of iron. So they're going to be begging for some type of mercy, some type of leniency. But as we didn't receive no mercy, there was a show I seen, I cannot remember for the life of me. But pretty much is one Jake, and he was innocent of this crime, but he ended up doing like 30-something years. Right? And that's a common thing. When a Jake loses 30 something years of his life due to some bullshit, and this devil being the judge thereof. Right? And you think he got any mercy? They gave a fuck that he was taking from his kid unlawfully. Right? So these devils got a lot to pay for, man. The scriptures say, was that Psalm 78? That there's a cup in the hand of the Lord, and all the wicked shall drink the dregs thereof. That's the strongest parts. It says, but Abraham said, son, remember. And even the sound event tells us how yeah, Salak, I had to pause it real quick. I forgot what I was saying. But anyway, let's continue here. May Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah bring it back to mind. But it says, for I am tormented in these flames, this flame. For Abraham said, son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. And besides all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot. Right? So this proves, because there's a thing going around that Esau is going to come back in power after we become the rule, but this scripture proves that could never be. Just like we can never get on his level and overtake him, he won't be able to do it for us, do it against us. Right? Even the scriptures say, what's that, Job 12? Job 12 and 14, that's a spirit. I can went right to it. Behold, he breaketh down, and it cannot be built again. He shutteth up a man, and there can be no opening. So it says, from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. Then he said, I pray thee, therefore, Father, that thou wouldest send him to my father's house. So that was pretty much it on that. This is Psalms 81. We'll finish it over here. In 8. Let's start at 7. You cried to me, and this is an NLT on the left-hand side. In trouble, and I saved you. Hey, the elect, that's why our hope is for the elect to wake up. Because in ancient Egypt, the Lord said he heard our cries, and he came to answer. Exodus 3 and 7. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people, which are in Egypt, and I've heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters. Right? So the elect are crying even more by reason of our taskmasters, these elites. Right? As they're putting more and more burdens on us. For I know their sorrows. And our cries is being heard in the heavens. And the scriptures say, let's go to Sirach. What's that? $35 and 15. Do not the tears run down the widow's cheeks? And is not her cry against him that causeth them to fall? He that serveth the Lord shall be accepted with favor, and his prayer shall reach into the clouds. It says, the prayer of the humble pierceth the clouds, until it come nigh he will not be comforted, and will not depart till the Most High shall behold to judge righteously and execute judgment. And the Lord did just that. And he's going to come back and do just that. He's going to execute judgment. And it's going to be swift too. It's not like, here where a man goes to trial, he may get denied or whatever the case may be. He might have to sit a couple of years just to even be able to see trial. And then even after that, it takes a couple of years after that to be acquitted. But it says, you cried to me in trouble and I saved you. Back at Psalms 81, I answered out of the thunder clouds and tested your faith when there was no water at Meribah. Listen to me, O my people, while I give you stern warnings. O Israel, if you would only listen to me, you must never have a foreign god. You must not bow down before a false god. For it was I, the Lord your power, who rescued you from the land of Egypt. Open your mouth wide, and I will fill it with good things. Okay? But it says, but no, my people wouldn't listen. Israel did not want me around. So I let them follow their own stubborn desires, living according to their own ideas, i.e., being under a place or in a place where the only thing that's certain is death and taxes. Right? So the elect, us of the hopeful elect, we looking for the other side. We looking for those good things. Like the angel told Ezra, there was promised us a life of beauty, of bliss. But we chose the life of death and taxes. But hey, we got a merciful power. He said, I will no longer carry thee into captivity. I think I know it's in Isaiah. I'm not mistaken. I think like Isaiah 54. Damn. Let me grab this. Nahum 1 and 12, thus saith the Lord, though they be quiet and likewise many, yet thus shall they be cut down. Slakia Akim. I had another precept in mind I wanted to bring out, but it left me so freaking quickly. Here we go. Baruch 4 and 26. Call Allah Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. 25. It says, my children, suffer patiently the wrath that has come upon you from God. That's a commandment, actually. That's not a request. For thine enemy have persecuted thee, but shortly thou shalt see his destruction, and shalt tread upon his neck. My delicate ones have gone rough ways, and were taken away as a flock caught of the enemies. Be of good comfort, O my people, and cry unto God, for ye shall be remembered of him that brought these things upon you. With that, shalom to the elect.